Wonderful. Hello, everyone. My name is Bobby Fisher, and it is my pleasure to present to you today the incredible TriBall. And for me, as a pilot, it is akin to actually designing or creating parts with the heads-up approach of a jet fighter. And that's what I'm going to want to show you this morning. And I'll have lots of examples. A couple housekeeping notes. If you would like to ask questions, please use the chat window. And I have RJ Saucier and I have Carrie O'Connor from IronCAD, both of whom are standing by to help us. So let's get started and get right into the webinar. We're probably here for about 30 minutes or more, and we'll see that. These are our goals today. What we intend to do is introduce you. Of course, I've already started. My name is Bobby Fisher, and I have RJ and Carrie with me on the line, and we're proud to present this to you today. I'm going to talk to you. Our second goal is, the incredible TriBall. What is it, and how it helps you increase your design productivity? And then finally, our last thing will be talk about some of our help programs and how we can get this off the ground for you. All right, let's talk about this idea, and I'm going to read down at the bottom first, okay? The TriBall style technology mimics a heads-up approach pioneered by jet fighters. And I really want to talk about that with you all today because that, to me, is the most important part of this webinar. It's a very effective tool for positioning components, aligning components, creating new components, and editing imported models or dumb solids. So I'm going to have lots of fun today. This will be a very hands-on kind of webinar. But before I get into it, let's just look a little bit at what the TriBall is. The TriBall is a tool that we use almost all the time in IronCAD, and it's a key differentiator for the product, and I'll be showing you how you can use it. It has inner orientation handles, and I'll give you examples of how those work. It has the outer handles for rotation and translate, pushing and pulling. It has planes for 2D dimensional movement, so you can just lock one of these planes. And then finally, you can rotate parts and do that kind of thing. So we're going to do today a lot of very interesting work in the product. We'll get out of this PowerPoint presentation quickly, and I'll jump right into the IronCAD product. We're going to start. This is actually, as you can see, the very first component that we're going to be, or the assembly that we're going to be creating today. And I'll be starting from scratch and actually recreating this entire assembly, which is made up of different parts, and showing you how that's done. So what I'm going to do right now is just make it easy, just delete. And we're actually now starting from scratch. So the easiest way to do that would allow me to introduce to you these, of course, this idea of drag and drop modeling that many of you have seen already. I'm going to simply come back and say, now you remember, by the way, if I just undo, there's the assembly. So I cannot bring it back, but I'm going to start out by creating this center flange first. And you know what, an easier way for me to do this? I'm just going to actually say suppress this rather than delete it. So it's still there, but it's just all suppressed. It doesn't know it exists. So I'm going to create my own right now, bring a cylinder in so you can see it. Simple little cylinder dropped in space. And for those of you who know IronCAD, you know that we have IntelliShapes built into our product. And this is going to be a very simple, I'm in inches at the moment, so I'm going to make this an 8-inch by 1-inch high cylinder, and I've created that first. So there's the actual back for the flange I'm going to create. And now let's look at how the TriBall actually helps. What if I want to drop something onto this that become a boss that's going to become part of this actual feature or the model that I'm building? Well, here's a really neat idea. I just drop this directly onto that face, and if I let go, it's located right there. This belongs to this part. It's all one part. If I click on it again, I have the ability to bring up the TriBall. Now, you'll find the TriBall in lots of places around IronCAD. So, what I'm going to show you first is, up here. Look up here. There's one place that the TriBall is located. Here's another place up here, right there. But the most important areas for me, I'm going to get those off the screen, erase my drawings for a moment, and give me my pointer back, my normal drawing tool. So the easiest way to bring it up is by using an F10 on the key, a function key. And that, you know, what I've done is I've actually, for those of you, you know what, I'm going to turn my camera on so you guys can see something for a moment. Get to see my pretty face, but before you do that, what I actually do, folks, just this is a practical advice for people, that if you go out and buy a multiple, and I have 2 extra buttons here on the side of my mouse, and I'm also, just for those of you who are familiar with CAD, I'm also using in my left hand a space pilot. And what's interesting is I've bound these keys, the F10 key, I've already bound it to my mouse and to my space pilot. So I'm going to turn off my webcam. And now what this lets me do, I can actually turn it on and off, as you can see. So now I'm in the mode of using F10. Now what can I do with this? Remember that I have these keys, and what we said, these handles allow me to pull this around the, so I'm actually just locating this in space along an axis. Other things I can do is I can grab the center point and just move it along this face, like that. Here's another neat idea. I'm going to go through lots of different examples with you today, but what if I want to place this right at the center of this face? Well, that's kind of easy. I can just go to the center point here, highlight it, see that, and then right click, and watch what happens here. It says, Bobby, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to a point, a center point, an edge? So here are all my different, we'll go to the center point. The center point of what? It's right there, this circle. Boom. So the TriBall has now located this exactly in the center of the part. Love it. I'm going to turn it off. And I decided that this is going to be exactly 3 by 2 inches, 3 inches by 2, perfect. Maybe 3, I made a little mistake. That's good. That's the size I want. Don't forget that I can push and pull these guys, make it 2. And now I've added this directly to the part. Now, what happens if I want to cut a hole through the center of this? Or what happens if I want to do something like I want to have a bolt circle around the outside? Well, I can take a negative shape. Notice that I dropped these positive shapes in, this cylinder and this cylinder. I dropped them in and moved them around with the TriBall. Now I'm going to simply take a negative shape, and I'm going to drop it in here. And, you know, it's kind of neat. If you're looking on the screen, you can see that there's a dot that appeared. If I'm clever, I can drop that right on the dot, and I'm guaranteed, and I know that this hole that I just put in is actually going all, you know, it's right at the center of this part. If I want to be absolutely sure, highlight the hole again, and then bring up the TriBall, and I can place it that way. Well, what I'm doing with this, as I said, is I'm going to create a bolt hole circle. Well, how do I do that? Well, let's use a really interesting trick. Remember I told you about the TriBall, kind of the heads-up approach? We're working on this right now, and it says, Bobby, you can use these handles for rotation or translation. Well, let's look at what that means. I'm going to highlight this handle here. Now, I can only move in that axis at the moment. What's really, really neat, if I grab the center point and pull it, watch what it does without any, oh, it found the outside edge. Drop it there. Now, by the way, for anyone in machining, that's a terrible place to put a hole because you're going to break a lot of drills. So I put it right on the edge. What does that let me do? Well, at this point, I can simply take this and say, oh, I needed this in exactly a ½ inch from the outside. So now I've got this located on the center line, ½ inch from there. Kind of neat. I'm still happy. By the way, I didn't want this to be, I want it to be a ½ inch all the way through. So there's my ½ inch hole. How could I possibly now create a, how could I possibly create the bolt hole circle? Well, remember I said heads up view of a jet fighter? Well, watch this. I don't want to go searching up here. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time. I'm busy. I need to be in my design. Well, that's where the TriBall really helps, because I'm going to simply come in here now, introduce you to a new idea. I'm going to make it a little bigger because we're concentrating on it. Now, this is currently attached to this geometry, this hole. Let me unattach it by hitting the space bar. Oh, now I can actually move the TriBall around. Why? Well, I'm going to locate this anchor right at the center of the part. Now, this is really clever. and I'm going to lock it into position. And now, remember that rotation? I'm going to use the TriBall this time to now create geometry using the right mouse button. I'm going to say, oh, hey folks, anytime I use the right mouse button in IronCAD, it brings up a menu. Bobby, what do you want to do? I don't want to move the geometry. I'm now using the TriBall to create new geometry. So create 12 bolt holes. I have no clue what the angle is, but I know it's 360 degrees divided by 12. Go ahead and do that. And so what I've done now is I've actually used the TriBall to create this geometry very, very quickly. So you can see this idea of using it to align components, move components. What would happen if I did something like this? I'm going to drop this in. I need this to be a 2-inch hole, and I want it to go all the way through my part. So I'm just going to use some, extrude this through the part. Oops, that is not, I'm not making an eccentric here. I need that part, even though I just created it, I need it to go into the center of this part. And here's a really neat idea. Well, I actually want to be able to move it. Where might I want this thing to be moved? Well, if you'll notice now I'm using a different key. I'm using this handle that gives me, now, you know what? I really need this to go right at the center. Now here's a really neat trick. I don't want it to move off this plane. So I'm saying lock it there, but move this right to the center point. And what if I can't see this geometry? I can only see this geometry. Move it to the center of this face here, which is in the back, but I said you're not allowed to move you're only allowed to move 2D. Bang, it did. It moved to the center because I had locked this plane and said you can only move in 2 dimensions. And it did that, but the geometry that I touched was on a different face. So a very clever tool for moving things around and looking. I'm not going to do too much on this one because it's a very simple example, but from this point I could go forth and start adding different pieces to it. If I wanted to actually come in and add some tools where I might say put in a custom fastener and place that custom fastener, same kind of thing. You know, what am I going to be doing? Put in a screw. Are we inch-o-metric? Yeah, we're inch. I said ½ inch, only make it 1 inch deep. Yeah, and you know what? I think I'll have a socket head cap screw. Go ahead and put that into place. And here's some real time-saving features of IronCAD. It says, by the way, you created this as part of a linked pattern. I used the TriBall to do that. Do you want to, put the other ones there? Heck yeah, save me some time. And now I've got these screws that are coming into the front. So there's a very quick example one of how we can use the TriBall to create geometry. Let me jump back quickly to here so you can see. As I said before, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask the folks that are there. And I'm going to go back into this one more time and just show you other things that you can do with it, which I think really neat because so I've created this little guy, but what you guys may have noticed is when I started, I hid the first one, right? I suppressed it. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to say, I don't want you and you can go away right now. I don't need you. I just wanted to show you all how to do that. Go ahead, delete these out, and please you too. I don't want you. Bring back my flange assembly, just unsuppress that because I want to show you something else I can do. So unsuppress all, and here it is. It's right back in there. Well, what if I wanted to create an exploded assembly? So I've got this assembly already built. Yeah, let's see how we would do that. Let me come in here and I'm going to create what's called a configuration, and this is going to be called the exploded assembly. Then I might want to put this on a drawing, and now I'm going to say you need to store the positions for me because I want these positions to know where they are. I'm going to close it and say, how might I, so everyone, I need you to know I'm now in my exploded assembly. What does this let me do? Highlight this part and use the TriBall to push it. Yeah, I want to push it 3 inches that way. Perfect. So that's the first one. Good. Move that out. Take the next part, and I want you to push this, over here, just like this. Excellent work. And now, what else might I want to do? Oh, I don't know. Take these guys and do I want all of them together? Why not? Take the whole pattern and let's do that and move them out like this. Good. Moved all those out. And what have I done now? Okay. I used the TriBall to move this into position. Well, watch this. Go back to the default, please. Oh, thank you. So at any point now, if I feel like doing this, I can say, okay, save this document. I'm happy for what I've done. And you know what? Just for the fun of it, let's go create a drawing of this thing. And yeah, why not? Give me this, front, rear, do all these different things for me and give me one of this and go ahead and send that out. So what it's doing now is it's creating a quick example of all, a quick drawing of all the different parts we've put in here. Let me bring this drawing all the way up. There we are. That's kind of neat. What's the next one? There's the assembly we have. There's this sheet of the front flange. And by the way, that was really quick. That was a quick example, but watch what I can do with this. I have, you know, what I really enjoy is this idea of saying, well, this is the assembly right here, but I prefer to see it here exploded. So this is a really neat way of working. And if you'll remember, what I'm talking about is I did it all without actually having to hunt for any menu. I just simply used the TriBall to pick things up and move them out and move them into position without ever having to go back anywhere else. Very, very interesting tool for speeding the creation of geometry and working with things. So I'm going to take this away for a moment and show you all another example. This is how we would create geometry using the TriBall. How would we, let's actually look at creating more assemblies here. And then I'm going to do some direct modeling and things like that to show you the real power of this fascinating tool. Well, let me open up a new file. And the one that I want to is this drag and drop assembly, and I like that. So in IronCAD is that putting assemblies together is really, really easy. And then I have assembly here. It's not that big. I'll come into some bigger assemblies. By the way, if anyone ever wants to challenge us on assemblies, that'd be more. We have some marvelous, absolutely tools for handling very large assemblies. And when I'm just loading one up right now. Wait for a moment. So there, I don't know how many thousand pieces this has, but we have a full-blown assembly. And the reason I'm showing this to you right now, because at the end of the webinar, I want to drill down into this assembly and show you some of the very interesting things that we can do. In fact, I think this one already has some analysis associated with it, so we could look at that. But you'll see here, at any point, if I want to just come in and look at a certain part, this is the part that we're going to be looking at later. If I need to drill down just into this part, hide everything else, you know, that idea, that's how quickly I was able to smash down into this part and see, oh, this is really cool. I want to do some work on that, okay? And I'll show you in a moment how that actually works, but let's do something simpler first, and I will come back to that. And I just bring that up, folks, because I really do want to show people the idea that working with IronCAD, you actually have, you know, I don't want it to look like, you know, we're only working on very, very simple parts or simple assemblies. I'm just really right now trying to present to you the concepts, but if we need to work in a much more dynamic mode, that's what I would do with you. So let's start over on this one now. And let me, well, what happens? How do I actually get in here and make this assembly work? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete everything except for the mounting base. You know, I could bring the mounting base up if I wanted to, but so we have a single part here, and I'm going to go and show you, well, I'm going to go to my IronCAD USA. And what might I want to do? Well, let me go. By the way, these catalogs that I'm using, you can build any of your own catalogs, anything that you create. Anytime that I create geometry, I can, even if I were to take something like this and say, you know what, I want to change this to be a different style of block. I may have something like that. That block that I've just done now, well, take that one and put it in here. So now I have one you know, that's this way, bring in this steel base, there it is. And then, you know, the whole concept of, oh, no, I didn't want that one, I want this one. So I'm able to save geometry very, very quickly. In fact, you know what, I'm so lazy, I'm going to say don't save anything. And I don't need you either. Get lost. I'm going to start over just so you can see what starting from scratch is. Just give me a 3D scene and go ahead. What kind of colors, you name it. Yeah, go ahead and just grab blue reflection for a moment. And what are we going to do now? Well, grab the base. For those of you that don't know, when I drop the base in, it drops onto it. How would I know that? Well, remember what we first started with? There's our TriBall. Where did it actually show me this position? Where did this position actually go? What is the position? It always drops the very first part into 0, 0, 0. So that was the anchor of this part, and it dropped it at 0, 0, which is great. All right, good. Thank you for that. Now, I want to put the next part in, so drag it, drop it. There it is on the scene. How do I now put it into position? A lot of other products would require that you now go into an assembly modeling mode. So, oh, we're now in assembly. Oh gosh, now I got to start working on, oh shoot, I have to align, mate, coincidence, all that stuff. Oh, what a bunch of nonsense. What I do is simply highlight the part. Oh, there's my TriBall. I want to put this, watch this trick. Okay, this is really neat. Take my TriBall and put this at the center of this edge. Watch this intelligence. Touch this edge, and the unlocked TriBall springs to that edge. That was kind of neat. Good. Lock it into position. Now I want you to move this where? Same thing. The center of what edge? This one right here. Bang, done, I'm finished. It's now locked into that particular position. Remember that I said we could create lots of geometry with this? Well, watch this. Unlock, put this on this edge. Always finds the center for me. I don't need to be accurate. It finds it. Lock it again, and now we have some magical things. See these inner handles? I don't want to move this. What I want to do is use an inner handle, touch this one right here along that axis and say, mirror this thing and link it to the other side. Done. So I'm creating geometry just with impunity as I go along. Excellent work. What do I want to do now? Grab a bushing. Put this bushing right at that center point. Hey, Bobby, you want another one? Yes, I do, because these two are linked. But did you see the intelligence there? I don't need to remember which one to pick first. All I do is come in and say, hey, I'm going to put this at this location right there. It doesn't matter which one I pick. It knows that there's another linked copy. Very clever. How about the shaft? Put this shaft right here. Oh, no, I don't need two of these. I just need one. Oh, gosh, now I got to put this into position. How do I do that? Oh, it's located there, and I happen to know that that edge is supposed to be on this edge. Well, watch. Lock the center line. So the center line is now locked, and I now have the ability to pick up the center and move it right there. So I've dynamically moved this exactly into position using the TriBall. Notice that I'm not having to search, where's my copy, where's my paste, where's my move, I'm just looking at my design. That's what I love about IronCAD, this idea that I'm actually watching the design. Oh, I need this moved slightly. I want this to be moved, what? How much? Lock that again and move it around here 180 degrees because I want, oh good, I need that hole in the front. So I'm using geometry now to put it into position. Can't have this just floating in space. So what am I going to do? I guess I should really grab the, I guess I should really put a bearing in. What does that allow me to do? Let me go to the IC, the IronCAD mechanical library. And I'm going to go grab a bearing and make sure we got a good press fit. So I'm going to grab a bearing and put it right on this part here. Goes into a library and says, well, Bobby, you happy where that goes? Yep, I got a roller bearing, 12, sure, put it in. That's great. And what am I going to do now? Well, I'm going to use the TriBall to make sure that this is, again, I have the ability to move this into the position where I want it. How am I going to know that? I can lock this and say, you You need to now slide until you're touching that. And so what I've done is and by the way, the way I'm working, folks, is kind of neat. Another really cool tool. I'm going to come in here and say, well, I want to make sure that what I've done is actually working. So I'm going to highlight these two parts right here, and maybe the shaft, and just holding down the shift key. And watch a really neat trick that I'm going to use now with the TriBall. You know, I want to section this to make sure that I put it in the right position. And it says, Bobby, where do you want that to go? Well, do me a favor. I want it to be parallel to this face right here, the front. And that's great, but nothing's cut at the moment. I mean, I just have a section sitting there out in space. Well, this is the marvelous thing, again, of using the TriBall. I'm now using the TriBall to cut through this particular part to see, did I place that exactly where I wanted? Yes, I did. I actually placed it exactly up against this part, but I could move it again now and replace it if I wanted to. Allows me to come in and I can actually work this way if I wanted to. Okay, that's good. I'm going to be out of there. And let me just work like this, and let me grab a Seeger ring and put this Seeger right here. Excellent. And so I've got a Seeger sitting on the part that yep, go ahead and give that. And so I put the Seeger in place, but you know, oh, wait a second, I made a small mistake. Let me undo that. I just said, just give me the Seeger itself. Don't give me the actual ring. Just give me the cutout. Oh, undo that. Sorry, I needed that one. Come back again, put my Seeger ring in. Kind of a neat way to work, and I actually said only cut it. But go ahead and do this, put that into place. And now I've got a Seeger ring, as you can see right there, and I want to make sure that it's going to touch. I'm going to move it so that it touches the front face. So I've got a wonderful press fit where it automatically cuts this slot and presses up against there. Now, so I have, and you notice I'm working in this neat mode. Oh, something else. I only cut those components if I had wanted to. Remember, I can increase the scope of this at any point. I can say, I want to add this part and this part to this and say, oh, sorry, I want to add this part and this part. Good. And oh, did I miss one? But you can see as I go, adding parts, subtracting. This part wasn't added to it. So anytime I want, I can go back to this, say, wait a second, add parts. I need another one. This needs to be added. And this needs to be added as well. Good, sorry. So I've cut through those as well. By the way, anytime at all, if I'm highlighting this section tool, I can bring up the TriBall. And again, what does the TriBall allow me to do? Oh, anything y'all want. I could slice through this way. I'm rotating the slice right now. I can place that anywhere I want to see how my part is actually, I'll put it back to 0. But again, we're using the TriBall to put these things into place. Let's turn off our section tool for a moment by suppressing. And I've got two pieces here that need to be on the other side. I have this one and I have the Seeger. So what are we going to do with this? That's kind of neat. Let's now they're not related, but I just say, I don't care. Put this, unlock it, put it on an edge here, okay? And you'll notice, I'm not hunting for everything is located in this marvelous tool as I go through the assembly modeling. So now, I want you to mirror and link those. What did I do? I grabbed the Seeger ring and the bearing, and it's now across on the other side. So as you'll see, we're creating these parts as we go, and of course I can grab other ones. I don't want to go too long on this, but you see assembly modeling. At no time was I struggling to find things. It's all right here. I'm able to very quickly grab this and work with it. All right, so that's kind of drag and drop modeling. And by the way, any of the things y'all are looking at right now, everything that you see on the screen, there are webinars available for you at IronCADUSA.com webinars or the IronCAD.com webinar page. All of these webinars that you'll see are stored there. So you can see the entire webinar. I'm just doing small bits of this so that you can see how we can use the TriBall to do this kind of work. Jump back into the product. And the next thing I would like to show you is how we can use it. And I think this is kind of even more exciting. I'm going to bring in another part that is actually a dumb solid and show you something that I think is really interesting. So let me go grab my stereo that I designed in a, oh, you can see I was using a section tool and unsuppress that. So here we have a stereo, and it's made up of a number of different parts, but let's take a look at something. Guess what? There's no real history here because these are just binary representations. These are dumb solids at the moment. There's, you know, I can't really get in there and change anything, but what I can do is I can highlight a face like I'm doing right now and say, ah, bring in my TriBall. What does the TriBall let me do? Well, I want to grab that face now and lift it up. Go ahead and oh, that's really neat. For anyone that knows modeling, what I just did is I grabbed this dumb solid and said, I want to change this face. I want to change the way it works. In other words, let's do something else here. When I'm working on this, oh, of course, undo, redo with impunity. So, but I'm getting really cool results for what I want on this dumb solid. What if I want to tilt that back? I'm going to get into that face again. Bring in this incredible TriBall, unlock it. I'm going to put it on this lower edge right down here. Good. And what would happen if I lock it into position now and say, well, you know, what if I do something like that? Give me 350 exactly. Move that down. Let's see what happens. Oh, beautiful. So I'm changing the angle using the TriBall. So I'm able to make these changes on these parts. As you're watching me do this, using the TriBall, I can push the geometry, pull the geometry, rotate the geometry, do different, and you're seeing it's kind of, it's one of those, I'm not worried about breaking this model. I'm not worried about any of that kind of thing. At any point, I'm able to take this, move it to a corner. By the way, that's another thing I can do. I don't have to right click and say go to a point. Because I'm using a heads up display, no, I want to put it on this point. Bang, done like that. And it's unlocked right now, so guess what? Set it back to global coordinate system, good. Or I want, here's some nice tricks. I want this inner handle. Remember we talked about handles, folks? Remember I talked about how these handles have different uses? These inner handles, their orientation. Remember I say these little guys here, orientation. Well, watch this. I'm getting close. Let me make that TriBall bigger again. So I want this to be lined up with this line down at the bottom. Well, I could say this. I could say, oh, I want you to be parallel to an edge. Like this, and I just touched the edge. Oh, it made it parallel to the edge. That's cool. Nice, right? So it made it parallel to the edge. I like that. Or if I'm a power user, folks, I can just grab this like this, hold it with the left mouse key, touch the edge, just like that. Now it's parallel with that edge. And then if I lock it again, I can do things like, okay, it's on that edge. Oh, I want to tilt it back a little bit. Tilt it back exactly 12 degrees. And, you know, see how well, yep, good. That's what I wanted it to do. Excellent. So you see, I'm able to work with this model, change, drag, drop. And that idea of I'm not focused entirely on just doing you know, exact modeling. I'm able to use the TriBall to create new geometry and things like that. So I know I've been very verbose today. There's something else I want to show you before we go on. So you remember that part that I brought in before? It's a very, you know, large component, but I want to show you the real power of this idea that we can bring in a very large assembly like the one I'm about to show you. And you know what? I'm going to let that load for a moment so I can just come back into this PowerPoint because I've already loaded it live once before. Quick review on this. If you'll notice, the cursors also change, and it's marvelous because remember I told you that it's giving you this heads up view. You know, I love a heads up because I can see what's happening at any point. So what the TriBall does is, as you're working with it, the actual icons will change so you can see, oh, I need to drag around an axis. Oh, I need to drag the cursor to reposition with selection. I need to drag the cursor to center handle. I need to drag it. And you can see all of these different things. You'll see and you'll get used to working with those. So let's jump back into the product. Okay. So as I said before, this what I'm working with this one on is we've got this strut, and what I've actually done is I believe I separated that strut. Let's take a look at it. Sorry about that. I'm easy. So you go away from it. I just wanted to show you all where that came from. So the strut is right here. Why do you get mad at me too? It's just giving my system back. Let me wait for one moment. In fact, not to have you folks wait, I'm just going to do this real quick. There are many advanced features. Some of them I've showed you already. We have some good videos that are available. This idea of shift and I'll talk about that in a moment. I just showed you this one, the TriBall drag, align and position without typing. Very, very clever. And I'll show you the TriBall on drop as well. We'll go back to the system for a moment, and you should have come back. Yes, you did. All right, let's take a look at this and see, did you give me my analysis? Not on this one. Let me just come back, you naughty guy. Load him up again. Sorry about that, folks. I'm moving too quickly for my own good. Let me get that. I want the front upright. Yeah, do this one. Oh, that was interesting. I've never used that before. Oh, what a weird open. I used a different. What open that? Oh, that's icy mechanical open. I thought. So here's an interesting idea again. This is a file that I was working on, and what's kind of neat for those of you who have never seen this, IronCAD comes with a lot of really cool built-in features, one of them being rendering, the other one being a finite element analysis. And this is kind of a neat thing. I put some forces on this particular part, and I'm showing you just for fun a real-time analysis moment. And you'll see why I use this in I'll be showing you the TriBall and how this fits in. It's creating the mesh right now, and this is just to show people the power that is available to y'all in the IronCAD product. That's how long it takes to actually create a mesh. Doing the solve now, and you'll see there we go. And you know what? I want you to come in here. Nope, I didn't want to do that. This is showing me what, no, I don't. I want this to be actual. Hang on for a sec. It's showing me the wrong thing. I don't want this I want to see the equivalent stress. Show me that. And the reason I did that is because it shows me that as I put stress on this particular part from driving, and of course I put a lot of stress on it, shows me that down in this area here, I have an area which could possibly have breakage. That allows me to simply come in here and say, edit this model, and do things like this where I could come back again and say, you know what, this edge, this particular edge needs a quick blend. Put it right, right here. Good. And make, you know what, let's be really aggressive with that. Give me a one inch. There you go. And I put that blend there. And if I wanted to, I could come in and say, give me another one just for fun. I'm just highlighting, blend this edge too. Now I'll make that 0.25. Good, that's a nice little thing. See what that does. Excellent. So as you can see, I've changed this radically at that point. Change the model, and of course I can come back and say, hey, do me a favor, give me a quick reanalysis of this, and we'll see whether or not I've helped to fix the, of course I didn't add geometry. I just smoothed out certain areas that looked like they were a bit of an issue. So I'm just showing you some power of how I can get these things and get at them, which is kind of neat. And it's very fast to do this, so we're doing a quick analysis. And as you see in the assembly modeling that we've done, it was a really neat way of working. Well, I don't know if, well, it's much less than it was because it's 10 to the 1 or something, but you can see I still have an area in here, and I would go back and forth, and I can see I would iterate, and I would add another fillet in here and that kind of thing. So let's go back and end up here. The TriBall allows you to do lots of different features, but let me just, as I'm closing up, say it is guaranteed to increase your design flexibility and productivity, and here's how. I showed you today that I could use it to edit models imported from different CAD systems. So, they don't have to be mine. I can edit any geometry from anywhere. It's very useful for creating animation paths, placing cable wire, inserting tubing and piping. I could show you some of that. I did direct modeling on this part. And finally, it really, really improves the ease of use and allows me to manipulate objects in 3D space. You never once, folks, saw me ever struggle with or creating planes or things like that. It was just simply, I used the combination of my mouse, I used the combination of my 3D mouse here and the TriBall, and I can create lots of very unique geometry. So let me just come back and we'll finish this up real quick. If there is more information that you need, please get in touch with any of our resellers. We have more than 260,000 users around the world. We have at least 165 very capable resellers. And at this point, I would love to open it up for questions. And thank you very, very much for your attention. I hope it was interesting. I tried to rush through not rush, but I tried to get through as much geometry as I could so you get a real feeling of how you can use the TriBall. So I'll open it up to you, RJ. If there are questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Yep, we just have one question, and I work with Carrie. We'll go ahead and put a video together for this. Keith was asking about putting text onto it, like as if it was a casting and you were going to be putting a casting number on it. So what we'll do is when the webinar is over, we'll get a video put together on how to do that, and we'll make sure to include that and send that to everybody that was part of the webinar today.
Excellent. Cool.
So other than that, there doesn't appear to be any questions. I guess we can wait a minute to see if any come over. Excellent job today, Bobby. That was really, really good. But I guess you covered enough and answered everybody's questions during the demo.
Yeah, I got you. One of the things that I do know, I see a friend of mine on here that he had a particular question about placing geometry, and I'm just bringing up a new version of a clean version of IronCAD. I want to show John. There's something kind of interesting here. I'll just do it real fast for you, John, and show you really kind of a neat way to do something. It's important that people know, when you're placing geometry, if I just have a cylinder here and I want to put a hole on this cylinder, and this is a real quick example. I'm going to put a slot, and you notice my slot is right there. See, I put the slot. If I needed to have holes that were located somewhere along this slot or something, I'm just being silly giving you an example here. Remember that at any time I have a hole, if I ran a trace out here and I wanted to put a hole, say somewhere, oops. Yeah, actually, this is a good idea because it lets me show the idea. Let's make this to be 0.1, tiny little hole like this way. And now, how do I locate that? How would I locate this thing to the center? Well, here's one idea. I want this to be actually focused on the center point, of say, I don't know, this. And so that's pointing here. See that idea? Or if I want it to be pointing to the axis at any time, I have the capability of actually locating, exactly where that's going to go along the center line of that. You can actually point it wherever you want. And that's the kind of thing, like what angle do I want this to be? Where do I want this to, to be in the part? The TriBall is very powerful to help me do that kind of work. Oh, why didn't you move? Hang on, sorry, that wasn't, bring this back up again to the top here. Okay, this idea that at any point, if I put it on this edge there, how do I get it to point to the center? Well, this idea, just this, I need this to point to the center point of this. And now it's aligned there and pointing directly into that part. So this is just, somebody had a question earlier about how do I get these holes going in the orientation where I want them to go, and the TriBall is very useful for that. Okie dokie.
All right, we actually have had a few more questions come through. We have one from Tadas. He asked about using the TriBall with piping. Tadas, I'm not sure exactly what your question what you're asking. If you could clarify that question a little bit while I move on to the next one.
Do you mind if I just do something real quick?
Yes.
I'll do it really, really fast. If you're using the IC Mechanical Library, this idea that, okay, I'm just bringing in a really quick part, whatever it may be. There's my silly little part that I just brought in. Okay, nothing too exciting. Of course, the TriBall can be used. If I were to put this on now and it fits the way, yep, that's great. But the question may come in. I don't want it. If this is mounted on something and it's fixed, this isn't in the right place right now. So what if I need to move it? The whole idea still holds true, is that I can just pick this up and say, okay, I want to move that there. And so I'm using the TriBall with piping to change where this might actually move and go, that idea. Does that help answer the question?
Let's see, maybe you should show 3D curve with the TriBall. Okay. Okay, so the next, all right, so let's do this. There's a couple of these I think we may have you contact your resellers on. Carrie, you can definitely jump in at any time. The next question is the level of undos. Can it be changed? Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you can go into the options, show where the number of undos can be changed.
Right here. So I went in, just so everyone knows, I went into the optional menu right here. That's where that is, okay, for options. And then on the very first, on the general tab, right about halfway down, number of undo steps, right there. You can make as many as you want. But there is a caution. The more you have, the bigger the memory footprint. And that may not be important. Hey guys, let's be clear, guys and girls. Remember that it may not be important on silly little simple things like the part I'm showing you on the screen right now. But as you all well know, the minute I start to get into bigger assemblies, we'll be a little more careful with how many undos and redos we've got. I mean, this kind of work. So just be aware of that as you're working with parts. All right, okay. I'm all ready for you.
All right, and what we're going to do, since we're starting to run out of time, some of these questions I'm making notes, and we'll go ahead and do some tutorial videos that we can send out. The next one is a good example. Robert was asking about, can you show a hole going through several parts in assembly? We'll go ahead and include that in the video tutorial, because some of these take a little bit to do, and we are running out of time.
This one's quick, though. This one's real quick. I can do that super fast. Anytime you drop, Robert, any shape, okay, as you can see, I've got an assembly right here. There's my assembly. And what if, God forbid, I needed to cut something out of this assembly? Well, when I drop parts, say for example, I grab a hole. What are my shapes? Where's a hole? I don't see a hole. There. If I were to drag and drop a hole right here, and that, as you can see, I just put a hole, but it only went through that one flange, right? But I want it to go through both of these, 3 of these flanges. Well, there's an easy way to do that. Instead of using the left mouse button, I use the right mouse button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it, drop it right here. And I remember, Robert, whenever you use the right mouse button for any action, it always brings up a menu. That allows me to drop this as an assembly feature, which means go not just on this part, on all the parts. I want you to, no matter what, I want you to look at this whole assembly. And now what's happened is, thanks, Robert, you destroyed my assembly. But as you can see, I now dropped it as an assembly feature, and because it's an assembly feature, it knows that it has to cut through this part and this part and this part. Any of the parts that are in this assembly, it cut all the way through.
Okay.
There you go, Robert.
If you want to keep that one up, we'll use this for the next example. When creating a drawing, this comes from Keith. When creating a drawing, how do you pull out just a single part of that assembly without hiding all of the rest of the assembly? Keith,
you mean
really
pull it out to draw it?
Yeah. So
that's the drawing.
How
that's
do you
easy.
draw a single part out of an assembly without hiding all the rest of the assembly?
Oh gosh, Keith, you never need to hide, okay? If I wanted to go create a drawing of what's on the screen right now,
Well,
okay?
pick what he's asking is to pick just one of those parts.
I know that. I know
Okay.
that. I'm going to create a new drawing just right now, and super cool. And it says, okay, I want to do this. No, I want to do it. I want. Oh, hang on, sorry. Turn this. Yeah, that's what I want to do right now. And it's saying it's in the assembly right now. No, which part do I want out of the assembly? I have the choice right now where I can say, what do I want? I only want to take the bearing or something like that. I'm picking apart and just for some reason going, I just drew the bearing only, which is very boring. But I waited till I got here. If that's I didn't need to hide anything. All I need to do is say, just give me a standard view. What is it that I'm going to be, what am I going to take a standard view of? And then here, select which part. What is the part that I want? And I don't really know because I'm being silly here. It's not my assembly. But so there, now I've got that part, whatever it may be. And of course I can label that if I need to have, what is it? Give me the border, give me the name, give me the scale, it's the front, blah, 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 whatever it is. Okay? Does that help answer the question? There are tools there. You don't need to hide first. You can do that at any time, any assembly. You can just come in and say, I only want a certain part. Now, you guys remember what I did when I did this is I did just one view, but of course there was nothing at all stopping me from saying, give me top, front, side. Hang on, before I do that, I just want this way, top, front, side, ISO, and the only part that I want out of this is, whatever it might be, the pivot, the slide. I don't know what the pivot is. Can I do two of these? Hey, Carrie, can I do two at once? Oh, it looks like I can. And good. That was really neat. Oh, that was super cool. Wow. So instead of doing just one, I wanted both of those, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, you can actually control select through the entire scene, and actually using control select, you can
really
select
neat.
parts from different sub-assemblies as well.
Very cool. And yeah, I really like, there's the full BOM of everything that's there. Okay, cool. And at any point now, of course, if I want to do an item bubble, what is this? It's showing me what are these, 1 and 2, the pivot and the slide. That's what I took out of the whole assemblies, just the pivot and the slide. And of course, anytime, if I don't like the way they're showing up, I can even do this kind of thing where I say, no, I want the shaded rendering here. Done. So really kind of neat capability. And that was a great question. Love that. Good question. Thank you.
All right. The next question is from Brian. He'd like to know how to do a radial groove, like a lip seal groove.
I don't know. I have no clue.
Probably the easiest way is go ahead and go back to your
well, why don't we make a movie of that, because we are getting really I didn't want to go, we've only done an hour. Certainly we could do a radial groove with a sweep, and there's lots of ways of doing it. I would say that's a good modeling question that's more easily answered just by doing a quick video. And that would be a nice one anyway to have in the library if you're cool with that, RJ.
So we'll do a video on that, and an easy way to one easy way is to use the H-Torus that you see in the scene browser there, or the catalog browser. You can drag and drop the H-Torus and size that, and that can do that for you.
I see. So if I located it correctly around this thing like this, 90 degrees, and put
that
this
in the center,
right center point here, and move it down a little bit.
That.
Right, and so that could then be, I see what you're saying. So I would resize that to make it bigger, smaller, you name it, and it's actually cutting that. Oh, wow. Oh, thanks for that, RJ. That's cool as anything.
And if you make it smaller, you can make it an internal groove as well.
And does it also allow me to decide where the start and end points are? I don't know if that, I don't think so. Does it?
That would just be within the center of that.
I see what you're saying. Right. Very cool. Wow. That was neat. Oh, wow.
Okay. Tadas, I'm not sure what you mean by this question. Maybe you should show 3D curve with TriBall. We'll need some clarification on that.
if you just if you turn on the 3D curve tool, and you can turn on the TriBall and then hit P to place a point, and then every time you move the TriBall, you
Right.
place another point.
Gotcha.
Right. And what I was doing is if I go in here and do a 3D curve, that's exactly like if I come in and just place this, for my next one, I can actually just say, okay, I need the TriBall. Where will that actually be? I can actually use the TriBall to locate where this next, and then I go P, right? Is that correct? That's the next point. And then the point after that is going to be straight up here, but it's going to be a little bit further over like this. And that's the next point, P. And now I want to have this one come, you know, exactly that this idea as I'm driving, I'm using the TriBall to locate where these silly things might end up. I might even do something like this where I say, I want this to go to the center of this, you know, oh, I had locked it. Sorry, I want it to go to the center point of this. And now, so I've got one coming out of there, and I put a P there. And when I'm done, turn the TriBall off, and there's my, oops, there's my whatever, you know, as I'm playing. Don't ever let me design curves for you guys. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just using the TriBall as you have all your planes, your orientations. You can just use the TriBall to orient or move along any particular plane that you want, just using the TriBall versus traditional systems putting datum planes all over the place and moving along those. You have those automatically on the TriBall.
Right, I could do something like this where I say I want to go point to point. I want something halfway between this point and this point, and that's where I put, you know, I used the TriBall to do that. Now I can pick the TriBall up. See, there's one point there. If I'm doing a cable run and now put the next one at the center here, like this. Oh, I keep making that mistake. Come here. At the center point of this, like this, and now put another one there, a point. And so what I did is I put 3 points. If I'm doing it, escape. How can I get rid of that last point? Is there a way to just say go away?
Hit finish.
I added an extra one. But if, as I said, this one came here and it had a point that went from here halfway to there, and then another one right there. That kind of thing. I should have got rid of that last one. But no big deal. But that's the idea. And I can also do it so that the orientation is correct. Like there's other ways of doing that. If I said I wanted a 3D curve, can I actually use this to start off, Carrie? Like put it right here.
Mm-hmm.
And now I want my first point there. I want my next point here. I want my next point, and this is, you know, a clever way to do this kind of thing. And then now I'm going to pick this whole thing up and say I want this to go over here, okay? I want a point there, I want another point there, and I want another point there. And now I'm done. And what I just did was use the TriBall to create the best path between these two. And if I wanted to put a tube along this is a way to actually do that kind of thing. Get my drift? You know, that's a very quick way to create a cable run or something like that.
Thank you, Kerry. I had the question confused me a little bit.
No worries.
But all right, it looks like we've covered everything.
You got to get me off the screen before I blow this thing up. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you so much. It was a wonder. I really enjoyed today. And if you have other questions, please contact your reseller. And we'll be running another webinar in 2 weeks. But in the meantime, I would like to do one shout out to Joe Brower. Many of these parts that I've used today, Joe created. And I'm very grateful to Joe for the work that he's done in IronCAD. And shout out to Joe. So thank you all, and I really appreciated it. My pleasure.
Thanks, Bobby. Good job.
Bye, folks.